When K9 officer Luna started howling at an empty Victorian mansion every night at exactly 3:17 a.m., Officer Sarah Chen thought her Belgian Tervuren partner was being haunted by the neighborhood legends. But Luna had been solving missing children cases for 5 years with an unprecedented success rate. Her supernatural instincts had located 67 missing kids when all other leads had gone cold. What Luna was hearing inside the abandoned Blackwood Estate would expose a child trafficking operation that had been using the town's most feared haunted house as the perfect hiding place, proving that sometimes the most terrifying stories are designed to keep people away from the truth. The town of Millbrook Falls had whispered about the Blackwood Estate for over 30 years. Built in 1889, the towering Victorian mansion sat on Elm Street like a monument to decay, its gabled roof piercing the sky, and its broken windows staring down at anyone brave enough to walk past after dark. Local legends claimed the house was cursed. Children dared each other to touch the rusted iron gate. Teenagers told ghost stories about strange lights in the attic and voices calling from empty rooms. Even adults crossed the street rather than walk directly in front of the property. Officer Sarah Chen had heard all the stories during her 3 years patrolling Millbrook Falls, but she'd never paid them much attention. Ghost tales were common in old New England towns, and the Blackwood Estate was certainly creepy enough to inspire supernatural folklore. But Luna, her 5-year-old Belgian Tervuren partner, had developed an obsession with the house that went far beyond normal canine curiosity. Luna wasn't just any police dog. She was a specialist in missing children cases, trained to detect human scent trails that were days or even weeks old. In 5 years of service, Luna had successfully located 67 missing children, including a case where she tracked a kidnapped girl through 3 states using only a scent trail from a forgotten backpack. Her ability to find children in impossible situations had made her legendary among law enforcement agencies across New England. But the truly shocking thing is, Luna's behavior at the Blackwood Estate wasn't random curiosity or supernatural sensitivity. She was detecting the presence of living children inside a house that had been officially empty for 3 decades. Every night for 2 weeks, Luna had led Sarah on their routine patrol route through the historic district. And every night when they reached Elm Street, Luna would stop exactly 100 feet from the Blackwood Estate's front gate and begin howling, a long, mournful sound that echoed through the empty street like a warning from beyond the grave. "What is it, girl?" Sarah would ask, following Luna's intense gaze toward the darkened mansion. The house looked exactly as it always did, windows boarded shut, front door chained closed, weeds growing through cracks in the wraparound porch. But Luna's howling wasn't random. It happened at exactly 3:17 a.m. every night, lasting for precisely 4 minutes before she would fall silent and continue their patrol as if nothing had happened. The timing was too consistent to be coincidence, and Luna's behavior was too focused to be explained by local ghost stories. It was at this exact moment that everything changed, because Sarah realized that Luna wasn't howling at ghosts. She was calling to living children who were trapped somewhere inside the supposedly empty mansion. The decision to investigate the Blackwood Estate required approval from the police chief, the fire department, and the historical society that technically owned the property. The mansion had been sealed since 1991 after a series of accidents had injured trespassing teenagers, and insurance liability made official entry complicated. Luna's track record speaks for itself, Sarah argued during the emergency meeting. She's never given false alerts on missing children cases. If she's detecting kids in that house, we have to investigate. Fire Chief Robert Martinez studied the building's original blueprints, which revealed a complex structure with hidden passages, servant stairways, and multiple cellars that weren't visible from the street. This house was built by a railroad baron who was paranoid about burglars. It's got more secret compartments than a magician's stage. "What about the sealed entrances?" Police Chief Diana Foster asked. "The Historical Society chained the main doors, but there are 12 other ways into this house," Martinez replied. "Coal chutes, servant entrances, basement access points that connect to storm drains. Someone who knew the house's layout could move people in and out without ever using the front door." The investigation team assembled at 2:30 a.m., giving them time to position themselves before Luna's usual 3:17 a.m. alert. Sarah and Luna approached from Elm Street, while backup officers covered the rear and side entrances. Fire department personnel stood by with specialized entry equipment. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet, because when Luna began her nightly howl, The investigation team heard something that proved the house wasn't empty, the faint sound of children's voices responding to Luna's call. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered into her radio, kneeling beside Luna, whose ears were pricked forward, listening intently to sounds that human ears could barely detect. The response came from inside the house, high-pitched voices, multiple children calling back to Luna's howl like an answer to a question. The sounds were coming from somewhere deep inside the structure, possibly from the basement or sub-basement levels that weren't visible from the street. Fire Chief Martinez used bolt cutters to remove the chain from a side entrance that led directly to the mansion's old servant quarters. The door opened with a groan that sounded like the house itself was sighing, releasing air that smelled of mold, decay, and something else, the unmistakable scent of human occupation. Luna immediately pulled Sarah into the house, moving through the dusty hallways with purpose and confidence that suggested she had been tracking these scents for days. Her nose led her past rooms filled with sheet-covered furniture, and down a narrow staircase that descended into the mansion's complex basement system. Wait a second, don't miss this detail, because the basement revealed that someone had been using the Blackwood Estate's reputation as a haunted house as the perfect cover for a child trafficking operation that had been active for over 2 years. The basement had been modified with new electrical systems, heating and sound-dampening materials. Multiple rooms had been converted into living spaces that were clean, organized, and clearly designed to house children for extended periods. But the most shocking discovery was a sophisticated monitoring system that allowed the operators to track anyone who approached the house from the street. "They've been watching us," Chief Foster said, examining security monitors that showed feeds from hidden cameras positioned around the property. They knew exactly when patrol cars passed by, when teenagers tried to break in, when anyone got too close. The trafficking operation had relied on Millbrook Falls' own ghost stories to keep people away from the house. Local legends about supernatural activity provided perfect cover for any strange sounds or lights that might indicate human presence. Anyone who reported unusual activity around the Blackwood Estate was dismissed as being influenced by local folklore. Luna's nose led the team deeper into the basement complex, past the modified living spaces to a hidden door concealed behind a false wall. Behind the door was a staircase that descended even further, into what appeared to be original cellars that predated the mansion's construction. But the truly shocking thing is, the investigation revealed 8 children between the ages of 6 and 14, who had been reported missing from communities across 3 states over the past 18 months. The children were found in a large cellar that had been converted into a dormitory-style living space. Despite their circumstances, they were physically healthy and appeared to have been well cared for, suggesting that the trafficking operation was designed for long-term rather than immediate harm. "Luna, Luna," several of the children called when they saw the Belgian Tervuren, reaching through the bars of their enclosure to pet her fur. It became clear that Luna's nightly howling had been providing comfort and hope for children who had been listening to her calls for weeks. 10-year-old Marcus Williams from Hartford, Connecticut, had been missing for 8 months. "We heard the dog every night," he told rescuers. "She always came at the same time, and we knew someone was looking for us. We started howling back so she'd know we were here." The children had organized themselves into a support system, with older kids caring for younger ones, and everyone participating in maintaining hope that rescue would eventually come. Luna's consistent nightly presence had become a beacon of hope that kept their spirits alive during their captivity. It was at this exact moment that everything changed, because the rescue revealed that the trafficking operation had been using the children's own families' desperation to keep them compliant, telling them that cooperation was the only way they would ever see their parents again. The 3 suspects arrested in connection with the trafficking operation had been using the Blackwood Estate's hidden passages to move children in and out without detection. The mansion's complex layout and reputation for being haunted provided perfect cover for suspicious activity that might otherwise have attracted attention. James Crawford, 45, had been posing as a historical researcher studying local folklore, giving him legitimate reasons to be seen around the property. Maria Santos, 38, worked as a substitute teacher in nearby school districts, providing access to potential victims. Robert Blackwood, 52, was a descendant of the mansion's original owner who had inherited detailed knowledge of the house's secret passages and hidden rooms. The investigation revealed that the trafficking operation had been active for over 3 years, with children being held for periods ranging from weeks to over a year before being moved to other locations. The Blackwood Estate served as a sorting and preparation facility for a larger network that operated across New England. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet, because forensic analysis revealed that Luna had been detecting the children's presence from the very first night they were brought to the house, but her alerts had been dismissed as supernatural behavior rather than evidence of a real crime. Security camera footage from nearby businesses showed Luna exhibiting alert behavior near the Blackwood Estate, dating back almost 2 years, corresponding exactly with the periods when children were being held in the basement. Her supernatural reputation had actually prevented people from recognizing her alerts as evidence of criminal activity. Luna was trying to tell us from the beginning, Chief Foster said during a press conference announcing the arrests. We let local folklore interfere with recognizing genuine police work. She was doing her job, we just weren't listening carefully enough. The children's rescue required careful coordination between local law enforcement, federal agents, and child welfare services from 3 states. Each child needed medical evaluation, psychological support, and reunion planning with families who had been searching for them for months or years. What you've seen so far is nothing, because Luna's rescue led to the discovery of 5 additional trafficking operations that had been using supposedly haunted or abandoned properties as hiding places across New England. Federal investigators expanded their search to include other properties with supernatural reputations, reasoning that traffickers might be systematically using ghost stories and local folklore to discourage investigation. The strategy proved successful, leading to raids on abandoned mental hospitals, reportedly haunted hotels, and allegedly cursed properties where additional victims were found. The Blackwood Protocol now describes law enforcement procedures for investigating properties with supernatural reputations when canine units indicate human presence. The protocol has been adopted by police departments in 12 states and has led to the rescue of over 200 trafficking victims in locations that had been dismissed due to ghost stories or local legends. Luna's case demonstrated that criminal organizations were actively exploiting community folklore to hide their operations, using people's supernatural fears as a form of psychological camouflage that made investigation less likely. But the truly shocking thing is, the investigation revealed that several of the missing children had been specifically selected because their families were already marginalized or ignored by mainstream society, making their disappearances less likely to generate intensive searches. The trafficking network had targeted children from immigrant families, foster care systems, and economically disadvantaged communities where missing person reports might receive less attention or resources. The strategy of using haunted locations aligned with targeting vulnerable populations whose disappearances wouldn't trigger immediate intensive investigation. They counted on us not looking hard enough, explained FBI Special Agent Patricia Chen during testimony to Congress about domestic trafficking operations. Ghost stories and vulnerable victims created a perfect storm of invisibility that allowed this operation to continue for years. The psychological impact on the rescued children required specialized treatment that addressed not just their trafficking trauma, but the complex emotions associated with being held in a location that their community considered cursed or evil. Many children expressed guilt or shame about being associated with the haunted house that had terrified them before their captivity. Wait a second, don't miss this detail, because Luna's recognition of the children's voices led to the development of new canine training methods specifically designed to detect human distress calls and differentiate them from environmental sounds that might be mistaken for supernatural activity. The Belgian Tervuren's ability to distinguish between children's voices and other sounds that might occur around abandoned properties became a crucial component of expanded canine training programs. Luna worked with trainers to develop exercises that taught other dogs to recognize and respond to human calls for help that might be dismissed as strange noises or supernatural phenomena. Her training methods were incorporated into canine programs across the country, with particular emphasis on teaching dogs and handlers to investigate anomalous behaviors rather than dismissing them based on location, reputation, or local folklore. The success of Luna's detection led to federal funding for expanded canine programs specializing in missing children cases, with particular focus on operations that might be using community psychology to avoid detection. 3 years after the Blackwood Estate rescue, Luna continues to serve as a specialist in missing children cases, but her role has expanded to include training other dogs and consulting on cases involving properties with supernatural reputations. Her success rate remains unprecedented, with 89 successful child recoveries over her 8-year career. Luna taught us that sometimes the most logical explanation for supernatural activity is human activity, Officer Chen explains. Her instincts cut through local folklore to focus on what really mattered: children who needed help. The Blackwood Estate has been converted into a training facility for canine units specializing in missing children cases. The mansion's complex layout and hidden passages provide realistic training scenarios that prepare dogs and handlers for operations in sophisticated criminal environments. You won't believe it, but Luna's success inspired a new generation of law enforcement officers to specialize in cases involving missing and exploited children, with many citing her story as their inspiration for entering the field. The Luna Foundation, established with donations from grateful families and law enforcement agencies, provides funding for canine programs and missing children investigations. The foundation has trained over 80 dogs in Luna's techniques and has funded investigations that have led to hundreds of successful recoveries. Luna's story has been featured in law enforcement training materials, documentary films, and educational programs designed to raise awareness about domestic trafficking operations. Her image appears on recruitment materials for canine programs, inspiring both officers and civilians to support missing children investigations. But the truly shocking thing is, 5 years later, several of the children rescued from the Blackwood Estate have become advocates for missing children awareness, working with Luna and Officer Chen to educate communities about recognizing signs of trafficking and reporting suspicious activity. Marcus Williams, now 15, speaks at school assemblies about his experience and the importance of Luna's rescue. "She never gave up on us," he tells students. "Every night we knew someone was out there who cared about finding us. That hope kept us strong until help arrived." The rescued children's advocacy work has reached thousands of young people, teaching them to recognize trafficking recruitment tactics and understand that help is always available. Their partnership with Luna demonstrates the healing power of working to prevent others from experiencing similar trauma. The children's families have maintained relationships with Officer Chen and Luna, with annual reunions that celebrate both the rescue and the ongoing recovery of everyone involved. These gatherings have become sources of strength for other families dealing with missing children cases. It was at this exact moment that everything changed, because Luna's legacy extended beyond individual rescues to fundamentally alter how law enforcement approaches missing children investigations in locations that communities prefer to avoid. Today, 10 years after Luna first began howling at the Blackwood Estate, her techniques have been adopted by canine programs worldwide. The integration of supernatural folklore analysis with traditional investigation methods has led to the discovery of criminal operations in locations that had been overlooked for decades due to community psychology and local legends. Luna, now 15 years old, has officially retired from active duty but continues to serve as a mentor and consultant for complex missing children cases. Her presence at the canine training facility provides inspiration for new generations of dogs and handlers who carry forward her legacy of never giving up when children's lives are at stake. Luna proved that the most important quality in police work is listening, really listening. Even when what you're hearing doesn't make conventional sense, Officer Chen reflects, sometimes the most supernatural behavior has the most human explanation. The Blackwood Estate training facility features a memorial garden dedicated to missing children and the canine partners who work to find them. The centerpiece is a statue of Luna in alert position, surrounded by plaques honoring rescued children and the law enforcement officers who refused to give up when conventional methods failed. Remember, sometimes the most frightening stories are designed to hide the most terrible truths, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is investigate what everyone else is afraid to examine. Luna's story reminds us that protecting children requires looking beyond surface explanations and community assumptions to focus on evidence that others might dismiss. Her legacy continues through every child who remains safe because someone was courageous enough to listen when a dog insisted that something was wrong. Thank you for following Luna's incredible journey from supernatural mystery to life-saving heroism. Her story proves that the bond between human and canine partners can overcome even the most sophisticated criminal deception, and that sometimes the most important investigations begin when we refuse to accept that strange behavior has supernatural rather than human explanations. We want to hear from you. Have you ever encountered a situation where local folklore or community beliefs prevented people from investigating suspicious activity? Do you think law enforcement should receive special training in overcoming community psychology barriers that might protect criminal operations? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If Luna's story inspired you, please share this video with someone who believes in protecting children and investigating the unexplained. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories of animal heroes who see through deception to save those who cannot save themselves. Sometimes saving 8 children begins with simply refusing to accept that a dog is howling at ghosts when she might be calling to living victims who need rescue.